Well, happy Friday, guys. All right, last week I showed you guys a video on rich white bread, and I absolutely love that recipe, but I have tweaked it a little bit just for my family and how we prefer to eat our, daily sandwich bread or the bread that we use for French toast on the weekends. It is Friday and it is time to make weekend bread. So I figured I would show you my tweaked version of last week's recipe. You guys wanted to see it, so here I am. I'm going to show you how I do it, and it's super easy. All right, ready? Let's get started. Okay, so to start off, we are going to add 1.5 cups of warm water, and for me, I always test my water on my wrist. It should be about the temperature of a baby's bottle. Not too warm, not too cool, but just right. Okay, to that we are going to add 2 tablespoons of yeast. I'm using instant yeast here, SAF brand. It's the best brand if you ask me, and I've made a lot of bread and I've used a lot of yeast, and SAF is my favorite. I also had questions about how I keep it. I keep mine in a mason jar with a plastic lid, and this is kept in the freezer. And as you see, as soon as you pull it out of the freezer, it is not frozen like a brick. You can use it right away, and it stays and keeps longer in your freezer. So that's where I store mine. Okay, and then this is where I alter the recipe from the recipe in the book. I add honey instead of sugar. Now I use a local honey that is made actually by a friend of my son's. So my son brings it up for me, and it's fantastic, and it's local to our area. I add 1/4 cup of it. I do spray my measuring cup with just a little bit of coconut oil, just so that the honey comes out nice and easy. And then I don't want to waste any of it. Of course, we all know the benefits of using local honey, so if you can get your hands on some local honey, use that. If not, regular honey is fine. I mean, you could use sugar too if you don't want to use honey. So this is just how I make it. Okay, and I also add 1/4 cup of milk powder, or powdered milk. I do not use scalded milk, but you could use 1.5 cups of scalded milk, cooled down, little lukewarm, just like a baby's bottle if you wanted to, because you need to kill the enzymes. Otherwise it will kill your yeast if you use just milk out of the carton. Now something else that I add to this is, and I keep it over here in a jar, potato flakes, instant potato flakes. I add 1/4 cup to this, and this just helps with wheat bread to make it a little softer, and I just throw it right in there. And then also to this recipe I use white wheat flour, and I also use bread flour. I don't use all-purpose. Wheat tends to be a bit heavy, so if you don't want to add any additional dough conditioners or anything like that, go ahead and use a bread flour. I like the results better. Again, I've played around with this recipe and I've been tweaking it until I finally got it the way I liked it. But these are the flours that I use. White wheat and bread flour. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add 2 cups of whole wheat. And then on top of that, I'm just going to add 2 tablespoons of room temperature or softened butter. You don't want it melted, but you do want it like room temperature. And I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of sea salt. And then the secret ingredient in making a nice soft bread, 2 eggs. There's 1 and there is 2. All right, now I'm just going to clamp that up. We're going to start mixing this, and then I'm going to start adding the bread flour until I get the consistency that I'm looking for, which is a nice dough ball that's not too sticky, with a clean bowl. But I also don't want the dough to be too dry, so I'm gonna let that mix up here. I'll try to get you in the bowl a little bit better. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and start adding my bread flour. Now you're going to add about 3 cups of bread flour. It might be a little bit more than that. It might be 4 cups. It might be less. It might be closer to 2.5 cups. So you just have to take this nice and easy, add little bits at a time, and watch your dough form. It's all going to depend on, you know, your flour. It'll depend on the humidity in your kitchen. It'll depend on the warmth in your kitchen, on how much flour your dough is actually going to need. Okay, so I'm just going to stop this and drop this down so you guys can see what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for the dough to start lifting off the bottom of this bowl. This is still just slightly a little sticky. I'm going to add just a little bit more flour to this, but this is pretty much perfect. So just a little bit more flour, and then I'm going to let this knead for 5 minutes. So this is after 5 minutes of kneading. So this is what you're looking for. Anybody who's new to bread, I'm only saying this for the newbies out there. You want your bowl to be nice and clean. Of course, when you use wheat and you make wheat bread, you're going to notice a little bit more left over in the bowl. At least for me, I always get a little bit more left over than when I make white bread. But you want pretty much a nice clean bowl. You don't want it sticking to the bottom. See how that's not sticking to the bottom? I can lift that and I can get a clean bowl. That's what you want. A little sticky is fine, especially for wheat bread, a little bit of sticky, but you don't want it super sticky to where it's, you know, staying on your hands. So this is what I look for. You don't want your bread too dry because it'll make for a really tough bread, but you don't want it too moist either. So this is nice where you can pinch it and you see it does not come off in my hands. So that's what you're looking for as far as consistency goes. So I'm going to get this out of the bowl. I'm going to shape it into a dough ball, and then we're going to let this rise. So hold on. Right. So go ahead and get this out of my bowl. All right. And then if you need to, go ahead and put a little flour down on your counter or your breadboard, whatever you're using. I'm just going to go ahead and get this into a nice shaped ball. Okay, and then what I do is I just kind of pinch the dough ball off there like that, and then I want to make a nice ball. All right, and then we're going to bring our bowl back. Now if you need your mixer for something else, you know, use a different bowl. Let me look for my olive oil. So I like to just take, I keep my olive oil in a squirt bottle because I buy it in bulk in a gallon. I just like to put a little oil in my bowl. I'm gonna let you see the dough ball here. It's beautiful. I do have a ProLine 7. I let it knead for 5 minutes. If you have a smaller mixer, you might wanna let it go for 7 minutes or 10 minutes. Whichever is easier for you. So whenever you see that your dough is looking real nice and keeps a divot like that when you put your finger in it. All right, so there we go. I'm going to put a bread towel over this. Again, I talked about this in my other video. These I get through Grove Collaborative. They're perfect size for bread. They don't drape too much on my counter, which I like. I don't like the real big ones. And then I'm going to set this now. If you do have a dehydrator, the Excalibur dehydrator, which I do, it's downstairs. When I'm using that and I have it out and it's out on my counter, I will use that to proof my dough. It's fantastic. If you don't have one though, I'm just kind of showing you what most people have, the setup most people have. I'm doing for the video. So I just put it under a light in my kitchen. If you have under counter lights, that might work. You could put this in your oven. I did that for a long time. Heat up your oven just for about, I don't know, couple minutes, not even 5, just to warm it up on the inside, then shut it back off, and then you could put your bread bowl in there and let it rise for an hour. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to let this rise for an hour, and then I will be back and I will show you the next step. Okay, so it's been an hour, and you can see my dough has risen nicely. So we're going to go ahead and just punch this down and deflate it. Take it out of the bowl and just kind of flatten it out. And now I'm going to bring it all together. I want to make sure all the air is out of it. I'm going to shape it into another dough ball here. I guess it would help if I actually aimed the camera. All right, so we're going to just shape it into another dough ball. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. All right, so I'm gonna get my bowl, and again, I'm gonna go ahead and just add a little bit more oil to it. I'll put my dough ball in, and then we're gonna spin it. Okay. So there we have it. Same thing, I'm going to go ahead and put the towel over it, and we are going to let this rise a second time. Get this to stand for a half hour, and then we're going to come back and then we'll shape it and put it in our pans. So 30 minutes, and in YouTube time, it'll be 1 second, but I'll see you guys back in 30 minutes. Alrighty, now let's punch this down again. We're gonna go ahead and punch this down. Get it out our pan, or out of our bowl. All right. We're just going to press this out. And then go ahead and I'm going to cut this into about 2/3. So 2/3 of this is going to go in my Pullman pan, and the other third is going to go into a regular bread pan. If you are not doing a Pullman pan, I'm doing the 13-inch Pullman pan, so it's a little big. If you are just doing regular bread, then just cut it in half. So here we go. And press this out, get all of the air out of it. Now I'll leave a link down below to the Pullman pan that I use. The one that I have is from USA Pans. It does not require you to oil it or spray it at all. It is non-stick. I've been using it now for 2 years, and I've never had to treat it at all. Bread just comes right out. And for those of you who don't know what a Pullman pan is, because I've had that question as well, it is a pan that has a lid, and it keeps a nice shape, and it also makes your bread a little denser. So it makes the perfect sandwich bread. If you're looking for a crumb that's going to hold up to mayonnaise, mustard, ketchup, whatever it is that you put on your sandwich, this pan helps you achieve that. So for a long time I was making bread and sandwich bread, and I just couldn't get the consistency that I wanted, or what my kids really wanted, which was store-bought bread. So this was the secret for me. Be the consistency of store-bought, but better because it's fresh and doesn't have any preservatives in it, is the Pullman pan. So, all right, I'm going to take my bread and I'm going to roll it up tight. Just makes for a nicer crumb. If you do it nice and tight, I'm going to go ahead and pinch it. Okay. And then I'm going to poke the ends and fold them in and make just a nice end. Okay. This is how I do it. Go ahead and poke it. And then I bring it up. And then I pinch it all together. So just gives a really nice end to it. Okay, and then I'm gonna fit it right into my pan. All right, and then what I do is I press it down, make it as even as I can, so when it rises, it's nice and even. If you see an air bubble, just pinch it out. All right, and then I'm going to let this rise again for anywhere between a half hour and 45 minutes, however long it needs. I am going to start warming up my oven though. Okay, I'm going to set my oven to 400 degrees, my bread pan on my stovetop. And then, now this is just a regular pan. It is a non-stick pan, but I still treat it. I'm just going to spray it with a little bit of coconut oil. Now, some of you asked why I use the cornmeal. You don't have to use the cornmeal. I'm going to use the cornmeal again today just to kind of show you. You sprinkle it on the bottom if you want. Like last week, I put it on the sides. It just makes a crunchier bread. My kids like it, so I do it. I do this a lot with my Italian loaves. That's a little different recipe. If you're interested in Italian bread, like a really crusty Italian bread, let me know, and I can make that video for you too next time I make it. So here's our dough ball. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to kind of shape this into a loaf. And put it in my pan. Flatten it a little bit. But for the most part, I'm just going to kind of leave this alone. This is a little bit of a bigger loaf pan, So you can put it in a smaller loaf pan if you have one. And I might have one. I actually do. So I'm going to go ahead and trade this out. Not a big deal. This is actually, I know because I've gotten a lot of comments about this. This is the Temp-tations from QVC, and I have been loving them. So let me just add a little bit more cornmeal on the bottom of this. Okay, put our loaf in here. This fits just a little bit better. All right, and then this one I'm going to leave under the light to rise. So I'm going to set this for a half hour and come back and take a look at it. If it needs 45 minutes, I'll come back in 45 minutes. But let's do 30 minutes and take a look. So, all right, guys, I'm going to continue on cleaning my house, mopping my floors, and all that other fun stuff and everything else that I do on a Friday. Deep clean Friday, so that I don't have to clean over the weekend. This weekend I plan on making blueberry pineapple jam. That's on my list, my to-do list. So I want to make sure I get all my chores done today before we homeschool. So, all right, guys, I will be back in a half hour. All right, so it's been 40 minutes, and once my bread starts touching the top of the lid, that's when I know it's ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and put these in the oven. They are going to bake for 30 to 40 minutes. Before I put them in the oven, though, I'm going to go ahead and put a topping on this. So before I put this loaf in the oven, I want to put a topping on it. Now, last week in my other video, which I will leave a card up above and a link down below too, I used a beaten egg with about a teaspoon of water. So today what I'm going to use, just to show you in case you don't want to use egg, or in case you don't have any eggs, or you used up your eggs in your bread, this is another option. This is just some warm sugar water. I just take some filtered water, I just sprinkle a little bit of sugar in it, and then I just warm it up. And you can use this as a topping as well, and I will show you that it works just as well. It'll give you a little sweet crust, but I like to add some oat to the top of my bread. Now this bread, this particular loaf of bread will be turned into pumpkin French toast tomorrow morning. I've got my older boy, my older son, Jake, coming up for the weekend, and that's what I'm going to be making for breakfast tomorrow. So I just used some steel cut out oats and sprinkle some right on top, and it will stick to that sugar water. Just makes for a really nice crust. So there we have it. And then I'm going to get this in the oven with my Pullman Pan bread, which I will use for sandwiches this weekend. And there we have it. All right, guys, 30 to 40 minutes until it's nice and golden brown, and you can knock on it and you can, or flick it, and you can hear that it's hollow. That's how you know it's baked. All right, I will be back and I'll show you the end result. All right, so just got the bread out of the oven, and I'm going to show you what it looks like here. So there is the wheat. I'm just gonna make a little bit of a crumb mess, but it's okay. There we go. And then let's get out the Pullman. I'll show you what that looks like. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So one for sandwiches, one for pumpkin French toast, and then Monday morning I will make 2 more loaves for the week, and that's what I do. I make bread usually on Mondays and on Fridays. So, all right, so there we have it. Our whole wheat bread. There's our pan de mie bread, and then just our regular loaf bread. I will spin it around so you guys can see it. There you go. I really think you guys are going to enjoy this recipe. I would slice into it and show you the crumb, but I really don't want to slice into these until tomorrow when I actually use them, which brings me to the next question that many of you have asked me, and it'll look a little dark because it's whole wheat bread. So another question I get is how I store my bread. I honestly use bread bags, and this is from Family Fare, but normally I used to pick these up at Walmart, just big bags with bread ties, and you can store your bread in the fridge. It'll last longer if you go through it slower. We kind of go through it pretty quickly in this house, so I usually just keep it out on the counter. But yeah, just regular good old-fashioned bread bags. I've tried other methods. This one I just keep coming back to. It's easy and it works the best in my opinion. So that's it. So alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for all the really sweet comments about missing me. I am trying to squeeze in videos whenever I can. Anytime that I have something of value to show you guys. Some of you have asked if I'm gonna keep doing haul videos. I will if I have like a big haul to show you or something different to show you, but I kind of got a little bored with those. Just kind of was really repetitious to me, showing you the same things over and over again. So I really just want to spend the little bit of time that I do have to make videos. I want it to be something different and something at least of quality in my opinion. But with homeschooling 2 kids now, my time is much more limited. Like right now, I'm going to feed these kiddos some lunch, and then we're gonna head downstairs and we homeschool for about 4 or 5 hours a day. So that's pretty much what I do. It's just been really busy here, but I love you guys and I haven't forgotten about you guys. Just know that I'm giving you as much as I can, as often as I can, of quality. So, and with that, I'm gonna wrap this up. All right, guys, I will be seeing you soon. Bye. Okay, before I leave you, I felt too bad not showing you the crumb. So I'm just gonna cut into this. It's super hot and I'm doing it for you guys, all right? So the crumb will look better when it's not hot. I don't know if you can see this, but it's smoking. It's so hot, it's got steam coming out of it. But I wanted to, let's see if I can get this to focus, to show you the crumb, okay? Look at that. Now your crumb will be even better when it's not piping hot and steaming and a little clotchy, but very, very soft. Very soft. Perfect for a sandwich. It's absolutely beautiful. And I have to say, right now, it's my favorite sandwich bread recipe. So, all right, I'm gonna try to save the steam and get it bagged up. All right, see you guys. Oh, what I won't do for you guys.